As you get older and enter retirement, you're going to incur medical costs that you haven't incurred in your working years just because you're getting older. But many retirees underestimate the money they will end up spending in retirement on medical bills. Let's talk about it. Hi, I'm Dave Lopez.
And I'm Chase Lopez, and we're financial advisors with ILG Financial. And this is another episode of Retire Your Way with ILG Financial, where we talk all things retirement. Now, Dave, before we jump in, want to remind everyone, go ahead and hit the like and subscribe button down below. Also, hit that bell as well so you can get notified for any future videos. So let's jump right in.
Yeah.
Medical expenses for retirees. So what we're talking about today is some unexpected expenses that you could potentially have outside of what people are familiar with, right? So most people are familiar with, your Medicare premiums, potentially needing supplement insurance on top of that. Long-term care insurance, people are pretty familiar with that. But there are expenses outside of that can be quite costly. I think there was a study by Fidelity that said excluding long-term care, a couple could spend close to $330,000 in medical expenses over their retirement.
Yeah, that's significant. And that's a could. So it could be even more than that, depending on. So let's talk about just a couple that we've seen where people are like, I didn't count on that, or I wish someone had told me about that.
Yep.
The first one, Chase, I want to talk about is what we call uncovered drugs that aren't covered by your plan. And to talk about that, let's just talk about how Medicare works briefly. So Medicare, there's usually three parts to it. Part A is free, and that's your hospitalization. Okay. Part B, what everyone's most familiar with, and it's coming out of most of your Social Security checks, covers doctor visits, co-pays, co-insurance, like an 80-20 plan, right? And then there's Part D, which is less expensive. That's your drug coverage. And there's all kinds of Part Ds. You can pick. There's a whole bunch of different options. So when you look at a Part D, they list drugs that they cover. They don't cover everything, blanket. And they'll actually even tell you the things they cover, how much it is for those drugs. If they're on the list, get comfortable with this term. They'll call it formulary. Formulary. So that's a real fancy way to say it's on the list. I prefer on the list. But evidently, I'm not running Medicare, so we're going to have to use formulary. So if it's a formulary, the problem is if your drug isn't on that list, you not only, in my opinion, pretty much wasted your money on your Part D premium,
right?
But you're going to pay a fortune. And there's examples where folks are paying as much as $10,000 for a drug because it's not on the list,
right? And
that can just cripple you. That's $100,000 a year for a drug,
right? And the benefit of the prescription drug being on that formulary list, right, is they max you out at $2,000 out of pocket, right? So you can, so long as the drug is on the list, you can be comfortable saying, hey, I'm not going to pay more than $2,000. Again, to your point, Dave, if it's not on the list, that's where it can get quite expensive for folks.
It's a wonderful example because let's play that out a little bit. We just talked about that. If your drug costs $10,000,
right,
and it's not on your list, you're paying $120,000 a year out of pocket, in addition to paying for your Medicare Part B and your Part B, B as in boy.
Right.
If it is on the list, you're paying a very reduced rate for it because it's on the list. And once you max out at $2,000, then the drug's free.
Right.
So it's important. So the takeaway from this one is, this is a biggie. If you're on drugs, right, that every year you can switch your Medicare plan. You want to make sure your drugs, especially the expensive ones, are in the plan, even if you have to pay more for the Part D plan, right? If you're not sure, get with your financial advisor and more specifically, someone who's helping you with Medicare. We have a Medicare specialist on our team. If you're with us, right, get with us. We'll put you in contact with Alex, and he'll make sure he recommends the right Medicare Part D plan to save you thousands of dollars if you're on medication.
Yeah, and then the last point on that, Dave, is if your prescription drug, whatever you're taking, is not on any of the lists, right, then you certainly want to get with your financial professional to see how you're going to pay for it, right? Because that's just something that folks can't go without.
And get with your doctor and ask him for alternative drugs that might be in your plan. Sometimes they're so busy, they won't do that unless you ask. So speak up and ask.
Yep. So let's move on to the next one.
Move on.
The next one is medical isolation, which is kind of a vague term. But what we're really talking about there is a lot of times folks, when they retire, they want to move somewhere else, right? For whatever reason.
Yeah, we hear this a lot, right? Especially being from the Northern Virginia, DC area. The joke is that you come to Northern Virginia to work, but not to live.
Right.
So as soon as you've made your money, we want out of Dodge.
Right. So when you move to those places, I would argue one of the considerations you want to make is how far away are things like hospitals, the doctor that you're going to go to, and things of that nature. There are examples out there of, say, places in Alaska, right, where folks will literally have to take a plane ride to get to their doctor's appointments, right?
Which is expensive.
Very expensive. So ultimately, at the end of the day, one of the considerations you want to make is how far away you are from those medical services, because that transportation cost can be costly. Not only transportation costs, but what if you have to stay at a hotel when you go to the doctors or something like that because it's so far? So if you are going to live in one of those more rural or remote areas, you want to factor in that overall cost into your plan.
Yep. And remember, it's not just an emergency.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
If you're going to the doctor every 3 weeks to have something checked, and you've got to drive an hour and a half to get to your doctor, that will really add up.
Right.
All right. What's next? Let's see. This one, most folks haven't heard about, but it's important, and you may want to start looking into it. It's called concierge. I can never say that. When you're concierge care.
There you go.
Concierge care. And what this is, it's really quite interesting. So some people's complaints when they get older and they start to see doctors more is I have difficulty, one, getting in to see the doctor.
Right.
And if it's a kind of an emergency, I have trouble getting in and I don't want to wait. I want to get in when I want to get in. So concierge care is where these doctors' offices or individual doctors will allow you to pay them in advance, kind of like, think of it almost like a membership.
I like
a
analogy.
Costco,
yes,
right?
Yes. Or membership to the gym or something like that.
Yeah, like a gym membership. So, I mean, it could be a retainer of $3,500 a year. We've seen them from $5,000 to $10,000 a year. Okay, but what that does is it basically gets you on their short list. Meaning now, when you call, they answer. When you need to see them, you can get right in. And for many people, that's worth the $5,000 or the $10,000, right? For many of us, we couldn't afford it. So it's kind of off the table. But that can start to add up. If it was $10,000 a year, there've been I've seen them as high as $25,000, $2,000 a month for the concierge service. But that can really start to add up over 10 years. That's $250,000 just for buying the right for expedited service.
Yeah, and I think it's an interesting concept, right, Dave? One of the things that we have conversations with our clients about is, they've done a wonderful job of saving for retirement, in their various accounts and things. And it's a good problem to have, right? But we talked to a lot of folks about, hey, you can spend this money. You saved it for retirement, right? And these concierge care plans can be a good way to utilize that money in a way that's going to, help with your medical situation.
Make your life easier.
Yeah.
If you've earned the money,
yeah,
why not make your life easier?
100%.
So for folks that can do it. And I will tell you, I'm going to put a disclaimer here because most financial advisors do not like what we're saying. Our clients, we advise them to spend and enjoy their money.
Yeah, that's what they saved it for, right?
Yeah. Most advisors want them to save it, maybe because they get a fee. I don't know. I'm not going to dwell into it. But we're real different in that we want you to enjoy the money. In fact, our joke is if you don't enjoy the money,
right,
your kids will inherit it and they're going to spend the money. So we want you to enjoy it. We can talk to you about that another time.
Absolutely. Well, thanks for joining us again at Retire Your Way with ILG Financial. Please don't forget to hit the like and subscribe button so you can get alerted for our future videos. We'll see you soon.
See you soon. Hi, Dave Lopez here. I want to thank you for watching our ILG Financial video series, Retire Your Way with ILG Financial. Just wanted to remind you, in addition to our YouTube video series, we also offer podcasts, 30-minute podcasts on different topics. You can check them out through our YouTube channel. You can also look at them through our website or any of the below listed platforms. Talk to you soon.